Well, hard feelings are now mixed with grief after a high-profile DUI crash that killed a school district employee and also left a star basketball recruit's future now in doubt. Well, the case hasn't gone to trial yet, but the victim's family says that they are already being denied justice.
And 13 Chief Investigator Darcy Spears continues to report on what many consider a problem with lenient bail hearings and shows once again it's an issue where nobody wins.
But I think I'm still in shock because I still can't get past December 30th. There hasn't been a new year. There hasn't been anything.
The last time Anne-Marie ECHEVARRIA heard from her husband Eric, he was heading out to pick up something to eat for their 14-year-old son, who shares his father's name.
And I called him, and he's not answering, so I called my son. I was like, Eric, where's Daddy? He said he's not home yet, and I already knew that he passed away. I knew it before I got to the scene. I knew it was him.
52-year-old Eric ECHEVARRIA had worked for nearly 2 decades as a Clark County School District custodian who sometimes helped with autistic students. He was a veteran, an organ donor.
They did get his heart.
And beloved father, grandfather, and husband.
I'm thinking, when is he coming home? I look out the window all the time, looking for, because, his spot is right in front of the house, and I just look out there and the car is not there and it's never coming back.
Their son, an 8th grader, is having the hardest time of all.
He keeps waking me up in the middle of the night, which is heartbreaking, to tell me, Mom, what happens to me if you die?
The teenager charged with killing ECHEVARRIA is 19-year-old Zaon Collins. The former Bishop Gorman High School student was, at the time, a prized UNLV basketball recruit. In Collins's arrest report, police say he was driving approximately 88 miles per hour in a 35-mile-an-hour residential area.
Well, when he hit him so hard, he airborned his car to the point where the roof of his car hit the wall.
The arrest report says police found a jar containing a green leafy substance in Collins's car and that Collins appeared to be high. The district attorney says Collins tested positive for 3.0 nanograms per milliliter of THC, or marijuana, in his blood. Anything above 2.0 is considered impaired under Nevada law.
He got behind the wheel, high, very high, and he chose to go down the street. And he swerved out of the road and hit my husband.
Collins has been charged with 2 felonies, DUI and reckless driving, both resulting in death. Still,
he was home in less than 24 hours.
Collins was released from jail the day after he was arrested, allowed to go home with his parents as his case moves through court.
So, it's not fair. It's just not fair.
Collins received what's called an OR, own recognizance release, posting no bail but being put under several restrictions.
But what stands out about this case for you?
The fact that someone died.
Bail agent LILIA CEBALLOS.
I was expecting like a $500,000 bail, to be quite honest, and monitoring. And when we said he got a word, we were like, what? How?
Bail has been the subject of much outcry across the country and here in Nevada.
The purpose of bail.
David CHESNOFF is Zaon Collins' lawyer.
Because there's been incredible racial and economic disparity in the application of bail.
Robin Fields.
Some crimes allow for administrative release through the pretrial services program, but that's not the case for felony DUI.
I guess you don't expect when someone dies for somebody to be able to just get released.
District Attorney Steve Wolfson said his office asked the court to impose a $150,000 bail on Zaon Collins. In a March 2020 interview, Wolfson took a hard line on driving under the influence.
It's just that, it's a choice, and they should suffer the consequences.
Because felony DUI defendants are not eligible for release through pretrial services, they must appear in court. Judge Joe Bonaventure made the decision to let Collins out without posting monetary bail.
We depend on him as citizens. And if he doesn't take everything into account, especially the family that's lost their loved one, to me, at this point, there's no justice.
Attorney CHESNOFF says the conditions of his client's release are almost as strict as being behind bars. He's on high-level electronic monitoring, has to wear a drug testing patch, and isn't allowed to drive.
So basically, The only difference between being in jail and being where he is, and it's a good one, is that he's at home and he's able to work with me.
If you got clout, you get out. And if you don't, you stay in jail.
He was at Bishop Gorman, a fancy, expensive private school. He drove a $30,000+ car, and now he has a very high-profile, expensive attorney. How do we reconcile that?
Okay, first, his parents love him and want him to go to the best school, and he led the school, from what I understand, to 3 state championships. So there's a lot of people that are glad he went there. Secondly, the car was his dad's. And third, his very expensive lawyer is doing this at this time pro bono.
Which means CHESNOFF is not charging a fee.
I understand how the family of the fellow who died feels, but I also feel for a 19-year-old boy who has an incredible future that now is in jeopardy.
He needs to pay, and for him to be out and glorified as a basketball player.
Collins's driving record only fuels the ECHEVARRIA family's anger.
It's very, very upsetting that he got to go home and my husband didn't get to go home. This was not his first time.
Not his first time speeding or his second. In fact, Collins has 4 prior traffic cases in the last 3 years, 2 for going at least 20 miles per hour over the speed limit, 1 for failing to pay attention while driving, and 1 for driving the wrong way on a one-way road.
I don't know, I guess it concerns me that a judge could be swayed to release someone with that kind of a history whose actions killed somebody.
I know a lot of teenage boys who've had bad driving records, so I'm not diminishing it. It's a fact to be decided and included in whatever occurs here. But I also think that, but for the accident, a lot of teenage boys have had those kind of issues.
Court records show Collins has paid more than $2,000 in fines for his previous violations. He also had to attend a coroner's visitation program in 2019.
And the victim's family looks at this and say, clearly, that didn't matter. He didn't learn from that. He kept doing it until he killed someone.
Well, at a point in time, everything will be said that needs to be said. And I know it's difficult, but everybody should be patient and let the legal process proceed. And
the ECHEVARRIA family says so far that legal process is failing them.
I'm hoping when he goes back on February 17th, which I will be in the courtroom, I hope that they lock him up. He needs to be he can't be home laying on his couch watching basketball videos when we're over there not knowing what to do with ourselves. You know, I lost everything.
Zaon Collins is looking at mandatory prison time if he's convicted. He's due back in court on February 17th for a preliminary hearing. Darcy Spears, 13 Investigates.